Did you realize that snake oil is the #1 most ignored superfood? That's right. Wait till you hear what real snake oil can do for your body. But I first want to dive into the snake oil concept that's been pushed out there for over 100 years, especially in relationship to snake oil salesmen. When people think of that, they think of health fraud. But let's do a little deep dive into this topic, because it has a very interesting history. Back in the 1800s, there was a lot of people out there selling all sorts of things in them that weren't natural. Selling them for arthritis and pain and digestive issues and all sorts of things. And they got a bad rap because some of them, not all of them, had some ingredients that weren't legit. Like for example, this gentleman here, Clark Stanley, he was selling snake oil for arthritis. But then, when the government tested his snake oil, they found there was no snake oil in there. And so he got in trouble, and his fine was, I think back then, it was $20. Nowadays, it'd probably be about $600. So he got a slap on the wrist. He's like the poster child of the snake oil salesperson. And they got branded anything natural at the time, because right about that time, there was a bit of competition between this new drug industry and natural remedies, herbs, etc. There was a shift towards more new pharmaceutical drugs. But in reality, back then, snake oil was shipped from China. For the Chinese that were working on the railroad all day long, they had to use some remedy that was really good for arthritis and pain. And that's what they used back then. But of course, some people that sold it didn't really have the legitimate snake oil. And that snake oil back then they used it was a very specific Chinese water snake. It wasn't an American rattlesnake that did not have the same amount of omega-3s. So in 1906 was the birth of the Pure Food and Drug Act, and they were going after misbranding and also adulteration of foods. And fast forward to present time, we have a lot of foods that are adulterated, right? Cheaper versions of food. We have cheaper versions of sugarcane with high fructose corn syrup and beet sugar. And then you have the seed oils which replace the healthier fats, the saturated fats, as well as the olive oil. Now, the FDA actually started, at least for a very short period of time, to be very, non-corrupted. But then, of course, look at what happened. If we really analyze what a snake oil salesperson is, it is some person or group that is committing health fraud. Their ingredients are dangerous, they're counterfeit. They're falsely marketed as a cure. They're giving false claims. It's pseudoscience. They have shills. Like, for example, back in the day when they had these snake oil salespeople, they usually had someone in the crowd who was a shill who was basically a plant. Someone that was supporting this claim, and they would maybe raise their hand and said, "Hey, I tried it, it's worked great. You guys should try it too." I wonder if this is still going on to some degree, and as I was looking at it, I'm like, it's definitely going on nowadays. Can you actually buy a scientist to support your drug? The answer is yes. Big Pharma has been involved in criminal fraud cases, and I'm talking about in the tune of $100 billion settlement fees. The organizations that took over from the initial snake oil salespeople are basically just replaced them, but they're much bigger companies now. In one case, $150 million lawsuit with another $600 million civil penalties. Many drugs are considered safe and effective, and then all of a sudden they're found to be severely dangerous, like Vioxx. Vioxx was considered to be safe until they found out like 60,000 people died, and so they had to take it off the market. How did that happen? Well, obviously there's fraud, there's corruption, there's very little transparency in the actual data of these research studies. Just think about psychiatric diagnoses, right? There are like thousands of different things for normal behaviors. They literally vote on what this disease is. There's no objective testing. It's all, let's vote on this disease, and they manufacture diseases. Currently, there's 17,000 different diseases. Back in 1900, there was only like 200. So, in other words, there's been a lot of manufacturing diseases purely to just it's a cash cow. And then what about the SSRI, right? Those drugs for depression and anxiety? Billions of dollars. Recently, they found out that this whole chemical imbalance theory was never proven. It's not true. All of these SSRIs based on this false claim that it can help balance your chemistry was never true. To me, that is snake oil on steroids, especially since it barely works better than the placebo. But it causes massive, massive harm to that patient who takes it. We have this situation where we have exaggerated benefits and minimized side effects. We have situations where Big Pharma is not even liable if they get sued with vaccines, for example. Then, you also have a situation where you can buy insulin in another country for a fraction of the money that you can buy in the US. From my viewpoint, Big Pharma is snake oil 2.0. We have now legalized snake oil salespeople who are FDA approved that can patent a remedy and then have the FDA police that patent. That's what they do. Incredible. Nowhere out there can someone have a patent and have another organization like the FDA protect the drug companies from anyone infringing on their patents. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. You have many of the expert panels within the health administration, the government, have massive conflicts of interest. To me, that's not science, that's not legitimate. That falls in this category right here simply because there's money involved. And then what about the mental health screenings in schools? I mean, it's like a recruitment funnel for the psychiatrist. I mean, that is going on right now. Hopefully we'll be able to stop it. So, please explain to me in the comments how different this modern-day snake oil is different from the past. Very, very similar operation. It's just a lot bigger, and somehow the whole thing has been inverted where natural remedies now, even legitimately studied natural remedies, are considered snake oil. I mean, it's beyond me. Let's get into real snake oil and what are some of the benefits of it. What's interesting about snake oil, it's one of the richest sources of omega-3, specifically this EPA. Omega-3 fatty acids are composed of mainly two things. DHA, which is kind of a structural fat for your brain, and it's really good to repair brain cells and cognitive function. But then you have this other omega-3 called EPA. Very different function. Snake oil is super high in EPA, more than fish oil, more than salmon oil, more than a lot of other foods. So now the question is, what does EPA really do? If we take a drug or like an anti-inflammatory, what that's going to do, it's going to block an enzyme. But that's not what this does. This literally changes the pro-inflammatory factors to more anti-inflammatory factors. It changes the whole ecosystem. And when you do that, you don't get the side effects from the drug. This EPA is a very potent anti-inflammatory compound. Anything involving inflammation, whether it's arthritis, bursitis, tendinitis, autoimmune, they also found that it has some pretty potent effects on depression. So it's even considered like a natural antidepressant. It's also been found to decrease the risk of cardiovascular heart attacks by 25%. It also can help decrease the risk of fibrosis. This is scar tissue, because when you have inflammation that's unregulated, it can then turn into scar tissue as the body is trying to heal from the inflammation. So this EPA can actually reduce the risk of fibrosis in the liver, in the heart, anywhere, even in the brain. Also, it's been found that EPA increases insulin sensitivity, so it's going to make your blood sugars work better. Great for diabetics. There's been some really cool effects on decreasing the risk of autoimmunity. And even if someone has an autoimmune disease, improving it. Why? Because the biggest part of an autoimmune problem is inflammation. And if you're going to do anything for that condition, reducing inflammation would be the #1 thing you want to do. They even found that it actually could decrease tumors because it improves the regulation of the immune system, which is just fascinating. And of course, Big Pharma tried to patent this EPA. They couldn't do that, so they came out with a compound and they're using it now for arthritis and I think decreasing triglycerides. One last point about snake oil. You can use this topically. You can rub it on a joint. It can actually help reduce inflammation without even taking it orally, which is pretty wild. So I hope that shifts your viewpoint on real snake oil. If you have not seen my video on the anti-inflammatory foods that you should be eating, you should check it out. I put it up right here.